Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahushua Ba'Shem Rakakodash, and throw my honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is your brother, I am Noah Allah from Yemen, Chicago, and come back with you with another lesson. Alright, this is going to be about, alright, martial law will be implemented soon on the streets of America. Alright, and then what you see here is a DoD Directive 5240.01. Alright, it says DoD intelligence and intelligence related activities and defense intelligence component assistance to law enforcement agencies and other civil authorities. And I showed you this like numerous times, alright, in my previous videos, but this was into effect since September 27th of 2024. Alright, and you go into the table of contents. It shows you over here 3.3 levels of authority. You go to that page, 3.3 levels of authority, and basically it goes to show you that as you read through it, right, especially the highlighted part, it goes to show you that these law enforcement that will soon be deployed here on the streets of America, right, such as martial law, will have the authority to use the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. And that's the time that we're coming into, to the point where things are about to get chaotic because the economy is going bad. All right, people are gonna be spending more for their groceries and shit, and not only that too, but Esau is setting the stage up to declare martial law, because now, all right, you got all these false T attacks that happen around America, and is being reported on the news big times. All right, and they're saying that these are T attacks. It says FBI investigates 2 possible T attacks inside the U.S. T attacks in Michigan, a synagogue in Virginia University, rattle sense of safety in America. And you can kind of see that Esau is pushing the narrative of showing you that there are T attacks in America, and you got people here in America that are actually protesting against Trump because of the situation between Israel and Iran, and the U.S. being involved in the war that these Americans never wanted to deal with in the first place. These people are going against their government, and as these T attacks are happening, these false flag T attacks are happening more often. All right, these people are gonna start protesting even more. All right, because they already see that the government system is all fucked up. All right, these people are out there protesting and against their government. All right, and what real soon, the government is gonna start labeling people as enemy of the state because of these T attacks that are going around in America. They're happening around America. So Esau is about to roll out the military in the streets of America. Suspect in Michigan, synagogue attack, lost family in recent airstrike in Lebanon. So say, here's what we know. Dominion University shooting. They investigated an act of, T investigated as, protest. And so some shit just happened near the White House too. Car crash. Vehicle crashes to a metal barricade near the White House. And that is also being investigated as a possible T attack. So there's a lot of sedition that's going around in America. Alright? There's a lot of sedition going around. Protests. And yeah, there's these protests are going around, right? So now you got a pushback from the public, right? These people are protesting against their government, and as these false flag T attacks happen more often, alright, now they got us, because there's gonna be way worse ones than what we just seen right now. And Esau has a plan to implement martial law rules. So, right, that's what the elites ultimately wants too. Man shall go into a city. Alright, so martial law is at the door. Alright, you gotta see the buildup of this economy is crashing because of what's going on with the financial situation or with America. Alright, gas prices are rising. Alright, the Strait of Hormuz is now closed, and that's going to affect the global economy, and it's going to really, fuck shit up for every nation, especially here in America. But it says, second Esdras 15 and 17, the man shall desire to go into a city. Actually, I'm going to start with verse 14. Woe to the world, and woe to them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. One people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that's the sedition that you're seeing that is brewing here in America. Alright, people are protesting, alright, against their government, alright, and it's gonna get real bad to the point where there's gonna be more T attacks. Alright, there's gonna be more how would I say, more sedition between their government and one another because of the cost of living that is getting worse right now. It says, sword and destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. The swords are in their hands. And that sword going into the modern day weapon, right? The gun or the sword, any weapon basically. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard the kings of their princes. That goes into your governments, or your officials, your law enforcement, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. And yeah, that's what we're about to see here in America, complete lawlessness. Alright, and you see that brewing. It's only going to get worse. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And that's right, martial law. Alright, they're going to have checkpoints. To the point where you're not going to be able to go from city to city or neighborhood to neighborhood. Because of the pride, the city shall be troubled and not be afraid. The man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And you go into the news, see just type in economy, alright. Consumer prices rose in January before Iran war added price pressures. Crack emerged in a resilient U.S. economy before war in Iran set oil prices rocketing. Is war good for the economy? Or U.S. economy expanded at sluggish. Shit. It's probably better ones. How will the war on Iran impact the U.S. economy? Rising prices on the back of the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran are adding to the economic pressure facing U.S. consumers despite efforts by U.S. President Donald Trump to paint the war as a success. And right now, currently, you see gas prices are rising, right, because of this war. Trump's declaration comes even as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, cutting off oil from the Gulf and mid warning from Iran, which continues to strike ships that could reach 200 per barrel. Oil prices spike above 100 per barrel on Sunday and again today. The magnitude of the economic pressure on consumers will depend on how long the war lasts. Hey, that's a major thing. A magnitude of economic pressure on consumers will depend on how long the war lasts. And hey, this war is this is it. We're at the end, all right, but we're at the beginning of the end, all right. We're at the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, all right. And this war is not going to end because this is the war that is going to end. This is the war to end all wars, which will lead up to the destruction of America by the way of nuclear missiles. But right now, people are about to feel the birth pains, all right, the birth pains. Firstly, how soon ship trafficking can return to the Gulf. If it drags on, especially if it remains at this intensity, prices will be higher and more volatile for customers, said Richard Zemiba in a Dutch senior fellow at the think tank Center for New American Security. So basically, we're going into an economic depression, right? And hey, you're gonna see all kinds of chaos on the streets of America, and that would give Esau a great excuse to declare martial law. All right, because of how bad it's gonna get, how expensive it's gonna get. All right, your store shelves or your grocery stores are gonna be found empty real soon. All right, and that's why in the scriptures says there shall be famines and diverse earthquakes, famines, pestilence in diverse places, particularly famines. All right, because there's gonna be a scarcity of resources real soon because of this war. And you can go ahead, you can paint the picture in your head of how it's gonna be and how these events are making that happen, right? Says a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy the houses with a sword because it's like spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. And yeah, martial law basically. All right, because this is the time that we're coming into, which is the time of Jacob's trouble, time like no other. All right. And those who are going to be protected in that time will be the elect. Isaiah 59:19. So shall I fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And yeah, that's Esau, all right, getting ready to come down with great wrath. You saw the documents, all right, the DOD documents. When martial law gets declared, all right, these troops are going to have the authority to gun use civilians down, all right, because of how bad it's going to get, all right. Tells you in the scriptures that there's going to be sedition among men invading one another. People not regarding their law enforcement, the governments, all right, because of this orchestrated chaos that's about to take place here on this earth. But hey, it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And that's right, Esau is going to come in like a flood. All right, his troops, his martial law troops. All right. But when he tries to come to his elect, it tells you that the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. All right. Which, ultimately, all right, no evil is going to touch the Lord's elect in that time that we're coming into. Slack. Storehouses. And they, I remember going to the mall or so, some of these grocery stores, and you're hearing them on the news. Right, a lot of them are closing down right now. All right, the grinding is ceasing. Going on, or you got a lot of mass layoffs that are currently happening right now. Is a lot of these grocery stores are going out of business. Fuck the hell. Beloved retailer going out of business after 25 years. Just a lot of things on the news about layoffs and businesses going out of business, basically. And hey, it's only going to get worse. It says 2 Ezra 6 and 22. Suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. It goes into your grocery stores, and you can see how this war is impacting the world economy, and you can really see how it's going to go down, especially here in America, to the point where, all right, these people are going to be shoplifting, all right, of course, invading one another because of the lack of bread, because of the lack of resources, all right. And it goes to show you that, Esau will have a good excuse to declare martial law. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. Then the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still. In 3 hours they shall not run. Yeah, there's nothing going to be. It's just going to be all out chaos. And it says, whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation in the end of your world. In the end of your world. But nonetheless, that was it to that lesson. Hope it was edifying. I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Shalom.